And from the sun at that time, there emerged these huge fields of, they called themselves solar angels, and they were vast beings just emerging from the sun. And I watched as they stepped their energy down and down and down, and they dropped their energy down into a frequency that was manageable by us, that we could assimilate. But as they did so, and it looked to me as if they were literally traveling down the sunbeams, they became something else. They were no longer solar angels. They became warriors of light. And the encouragement was for us to take in these frequencies and be warriors of light, become the warriors of light that we are. And it was stressed that this does not mean fighting. We're not needing to fight, but we do need to stand in these frequencies, which are the frequencies of love and truth.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Quantum Realms 2021. And today, the incomparable David Manning. David, my goodness, I've missed you. You know, I looked it up before we started today. I haven't posted a video of you and me since summertime last year, Lionsgate. That's just not happy thing to say.
It's been a long time, but I think we've both been really busy. But it's lovely to connect with you now. And I know we got together last week meaning to record a video, and we went off in other directions, and there was a lot to catch up on. And so it's great to chat with you today. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
And it's
wonderful.
weird, isn't it? Being human in 2021, which is what we're talking about, is it's a whole new ball game, isn't it? Really, where we're learning to integrate an awful lot, I think, at this point in time, and learning to let go of a lot. And yeah, it's a very confusing time on this planet, but it's also, from my perspective, a time with the most amazing opportunities, and that tends to be where I focus on, more than the confusion, because literally it becomes more and more important now that where we focus is where we get our results. So we have to be very clear about what results we want to be experiencing, I think. And so yeah, but it is lovely to see you and connect with you. Huh?
Well, I want to talk about how your work plays into all of this that's happening in 2021. But let me start with something you just said right there, because this is the point, looking at this concept very closely. What you focus on, you create. We know this. This isn't new. This is an energetic thing. What I think is still called into question a lot by many, and even teachers and light workers and way showers, is how do you focus on that without bypassing and ignoring and dismissing reality that's in your face, in some sort of way where you are not acknowledging something that becomes a complete ridiculous concept. I'm just going to focus on this when it's right here. What do you say to that idea?
It's a really great point, because there's nothing more irritating than airheads, or people that are just the love and light brigade who aren't dealing with the darker side of themselves primarily. And so you have to deal with what triggers you. You have to be really honest with yourself in terms of what's going on for you. And for many of us, we have an amazing capacity to deny that, to pretend that everything is fine and rosy, and not be in contact with the nasty, icky, shitty stuff that we all have. And of course, I watch the news. I don't spend a lot of time watching the news, but I watch the headlines. I look at um, online, there's a lot of stuff comes up in my Facebook feed. I no longer immerse myself in any of that. But I've spent years dealing with my shadow, um, excavating that. And now I know when something triggers me, there's a process right there that I need to deal with in order to be able to hold a reasonably neutral field. Now, what my guidance tells me is that neutrality is the field that is universal in effect. The whole universe holds a neutral field. Of course, on this planet, we've done a lot of other things, but everything is acceptable to the universe. It's held in complete neutrality, no judgment at all. That energy of no judgment is what we would term love without condition. So it's all held in that field. Love without condition is a field that is so rare to human beings that we don't often recognize it until you become very used to that frequency. So it's easy to do what you mentioned, spiritually bypass, by focusing on, I'm just going to create my reality. I'm only going to focus on the happy, happy. You have to process your shit as it comes up, and it will be coming up all the time now. You have to be real with yourself and recognize it's still very, very possible to create a beautiful reality for yourself, even in the midst of the chaos that the planet is immersed in, because dimensions are separating very quickly now. And that's where it's important to choose, because if you're choosing to focus on, say, conspiracy theories and spending a lot of time investigating and exploring all of that, and that's a valid thing to look at. It's certainly an important thing to know about in our world. The understanding that life is not as it's presented, and there are lots and lots of forces working here against the evolution of humanity. That's a valid thing to explore, and it's a really important thing to know about. But to spend a huge chunk of time, which a lot of people do, immersed in that, means that you're trapped in the polarized field. You're going to be angry, frightened, uh, and you're playing into that particular game. You're giving a huge amount of your energy to that. So, from my perspective, it's really important to know that stuff, and then decide that I'm going to disentangle myself from those fields of energy and be more present to the higher dimensions so that those energies flow through you. I know now when I'm looking at a news story that that is really questionable or could really piss me off, that it's very easy for me to focus on that and allow a lot of love to flow through my field into that news story. And I know that that energy, it's not that I want a particular outcome, but that energy will touch whoever is involved in that news story in a way that I can't imagine. And it leaves me free from immersing myself, from draining myself, from lowering my own frequency to match the frequency of that entanglement, whatever that is. So, yeah, I mean, that's a really long, convoluted answer, but you have to do your work in terms of dismantling your processes, dismantling all the ways you're bought into the polarized state. And the gift of this time is polarization is so right in your face that you can't miss it. So if you're dedicated to unity consciousness or love without condition, then it's going to be easy to know what it is you need to process. That other stuff, the polarity, is very, very addictive. Um, it's very exciting. It's very dramatic. It gets our adrenaline going. And most of us are addicted at one level or other to adrenaline. So, and you get a lot of kudos for knowing about that stuff, for, having opinions and all of that. Um, that's attachment. That's the stuff that we are really deeply attached to. And letting it go involves dismantling your attachments and your buy-ins and your wounds at that level, so that you're no longer hooked into those fields of energy. And those are primarily third and fourth dimensional. Yeah. And we're talking now because fifth, sixth, seventh dimensional energies are very, very available on the planet. You can't, or you can split yourself for a while, but in the end, your soul is going to be pulling you into higher dimensions, higher frequencies. You have to let go of that other stuff, because it literally weighs you down. You have to. And this is where we get the confusion. If you're going to rise above it, that does not mean denying it. It does not mean suppressing it. It does not mean avoiding it. It means dealing with it in your field and in your body and in your life. Not dealing with it for everybody else. You can't do that. But you have to deal with it for yourself. And then you let it go, and your field becomes full of those higher frequency fields, higher dimensions, and you're no longer as activated by what happens in the murkier collective fields, the third, fourth dimensional fields. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I think, there are others out there, and I talk to so many different people, and I have so many different clients, but there's this sense, I think, that a lot of people, let's call them more newly awakened people, that if they get angry at all, or if they get in a state of despair at all, they think, well, I guess I don't understand this stuff. I haven't really risen here. I haven't improved myself. I'm a failure. I'm just fooling myself about my spiritual path. If they feel any of this at all, I guess I'm not an evolved being. And then they want to throw it all out. And what I think is valuable to hear you say, and what I try to say is, I don't care who you might be listening to out there who may have been doing shadow work or this kind of work decades, they still have to do this. and probably and possibly daily, whatever shows up. I think that's the valuable message to sort of share here, even though people who come like to you for your beautiful energy transmissions, to hear somebody like you who understands all that stuff about the neutral space in the higher realms, to say, yeah, and I really get pissed off too at some things. And here's how, here's how I deal with it. I mean, maybe you could even give us an example of, because I know that what it is, you don't suppress it, because suppressing it is taking that energy and going, here, let me put this inside of myself somewhere so it can fester.
Yeah.
You don't do that. You have to do what you said, which is process it, acknowledge it, process it, and then somehow release it and get back to that neutral place. How do you do that, David?
For me, and there are many, many ways to do this, many approaches, but I could be a really political animal. I can get quite politically motivated. The government we have in this country, which is the United Kingdom, is, from my perspective, really quite corrupt. That sort of stuff really pisses me off, and yet, so when that arises, when that stuff really starts to move in me, it always has a location in my body. I can feel the point at which my anger has its nucleus. And so, and it could be any emotion. It doesn't have to be anger. It can be grief. It can be fear, whatever. I can always locate it in my system. And so I go there. I just take my awareness to that most condensed part, that most condensed place. And you can do this with a physical wound or with a disease process in your body. It doesn't actually matter. Just go there, bring awareness to it, and just focus on it. And again, this is that neutral field. I drop into that space where I'm gazing at this process in my body. For this instance, I'll just say an emotional process. I move to that place and I'm just present with it. Now, what we know is bringing awareness to something changes it immediately. And physicists know this. They know that experiments are altered by the witness. We are the witness. And we are also the experiment. So bring your witnessing capacity to the point of confusion, pain, trauma, disturbance in your system, whatever level it's operating at, and just watch. And you can imagine that you are a parent connecting with a wounded child, for instance, but you don't want to be too engaged in there and you don't want to be too requiring of an outcome or to make it better. Just allow it to unfold. And it will, as you give it your best quality attention, a really clear, and this is a practice, it does take practice to become better and better. I've been doing it for years and now it happens very, very quickly. And it's what I do in the energy fields of people I work with. So as soon as you've really learned this for yourself, you can employ it for others. You can employ it for collectives too. But as you bring your awareness and your attention, your focus to something, a lot of energy will move through your focus to that situation to help it unfold, revealing its layers. And there often are many layers to something. There might be many layers of wounding to an issue in your system. There might be past life layers or what appear to be past life layers unfolding. It's an extraordinary and exquisite journey that is in itself a beautiful act of self-love, because you are giving yourself the attention that nobody else is capable really of giving you. And your attention in your body and in your field is the most healing energy available. So, and that for me is the most simple way to do it, is just focusing attention into the point of disturbance, the point of pain. And pain is always a call for attention. Just we are habituated and encouraged to numb the pain, to take a tablet, to take some alcohol, smoke a spliff, watch some porn or television or go shopping. Any of those things will numb us out to what's actually going on, as will drama in our own life or on the world stage. And there is no shortage of that at the moment. So it's, and this is very much part of just being centered. So you know what's going on in your system, and your system reveals itself to you more and more easily as you give yourself to it. It's a constant state of unfolding and willingness to be present with yourself. It's beautiful. And it just changes the dynamic in your field because, well, we all know people that are scattered. Their energy is all over the place. They can be uncomfortable to be around after a while because it's draining. We all know people that are centered and dropped into their own body, their own space. And that tends to be very relaxing to be around. So again, it's about making a choice of what you want in your life, what you want to be, So yeah, that's my approach, and it is very simple. It just takes a while to get used to it if you haven't been doing it before,
David, talking about the body, we were talking very briefly about a channeling that came through just yesterday by me from Dolores Cannon. And it was really interesting because there's so much going on in my personal life. I haven't had a lot of time time alone. Let's just put it that way. And but she was so insistent, and two different people had things to say to me and share stories with me, and it was almost as if it got my attention. And then I did this channeling, but it was all about really how the body is central to what is going on right now energetically. And I wonder if you could talk about that a little bit. I know that you had an event over the recent spring equinox. And how do you see the human body evolving, changing now as in comparison possibly to just very recent years past, if you have at all?
Yeah.
For me, here's where I have the tough part about it. For me, I have I feel like I feel the collective, or I feel like clients or whatever, but then I have my own thing and I have to separate them out. So I wonder how you do that. How do you see what's happening with the human body, both individually, and if you care to share, and collectively?
We've had some weird trainings on this planet over many, many centuries, really, specifically around disconnecting from the body, around denying the body, around denying physical matter in a sense. And a lot of religions have focused on the world of spirit as being the only thing of importance, and that you deny the needs of the physical body and the physical world. For hundreds and hundreds of years, we've immersed in those trainings. And so that creates quite a strong pattern in the collective, and a lot of disconnect between us and our body. But the word matter is an interesting word because it comes from the word mater, mother. And this is very much about the split between masculine and feminine, which again, we've been encouraged for hundreds, thousands of years to favor the masculine approach and deny, suppress, repress the feminine. Well, we're now in a reversal of that. And in a sense, our relationship as spirit coming into form is very much about recognizing we are totally the marriage of heaven and earth, of masculine spirit coming into form, which is matter, mater, the feminine, at one level. And so now I think we're starting to recognize that as a wider collective, and the body is receiving us. We're dropping into it and developing a relationship with it. So it's teaching us about how to be present on this planet. Encoded from my perspective now, not everybody will hold these beliefs or perspectives, but from my perspective, we are encoded. Our DNA comes from all over the universe. We are not just from here. We are not just from Sirius or Arcturus. We are a blend, a massive, extraordinary blend of DNA, because many, many races have given their DNA for this experiment in consciousness here. I have a team of guides that showed up for me years ago now, the lion-headed beings that we know from Egypt. Sekhmet is the primary one. Now, they told me that they are some of the earliest seeders of life on this planet, and that's part of their job, is to gather DNA from all over the universe to bring it to a planet that is ready to begin the experiment of hosting life. Their DNA is a part of what we are, as many, many races are too. So as we give ourselves to, as we surrender to being physical, and that's a real struggle for many of us. Many of us have resistance to being in the body, being on the planet. We would rather be free as spirit, but we're here to learn how to do that whilst in matter. As we do that, then we unlock the codes and the keys that are available in our DNA. And we've bought into this understanding that, human history is only a few thousand years old, in essence, that our civilization only goes back, 10,000, 12,000 years. Well, more and more now they're finding that there are civilizations going back way, way, way further than that. And from my perspective, there's a huge amount of historic data that hasn't even been recovered or allowed to be made public yet. It's all encoded here in our body. It's an extraordinary warehouse of information. It can also be an extraordinary warehouse of emotions and woundedness. And that's what we have to do the work of clearing, so that the shining luminescence of our form starts to radiate through, in a sense. So I think this is a really exciting time. It's no longer about ascending out into our spiritual reality. It's about dropping deeper in and unlocking the truth that is what we are. And to give ourselves to this marriage of heaven and earth, which is also a part of what we are. So that's my perspective on the physical body. And I think we're evolving rapidly now. And who knows where we'll be in 50 or 100 years' time. This isn't something that's going to be over in the next 5 or 10 years. This is a long-term process that takes us into a very different experience of life in physical reality. At least I believe that. So, we're going through a sticky patch at the moment, where we really make decisions as a collective about how we want to live on this planet. What are the rules and regulations that we're going to be living by, and who makes those rules and regulations? That's what we're learning to get to grips with now, and it's feeling a bit messy. But I think we're going to come through this. Things might get a bit more intense first, but from what I'm being shown, the evolutionary imperative, the evolutionary impulse is completely unstoppable. And there might be forces attempting to inhibit that, but I don't think they have a snowball in health chance of surviving, so or of succeeding. So yeah, and as I say, all of this is opening up inside us, in our cell tissue, in our bodies. We just have to. I've just run a 3-week course on a new relationship with the body, and it's very much about releasing the resistance to being in the body and recognizing the intelligence of the animal that is the body. That it has a huge amount of information and wisdom to impart to us. We just have to stop treating it like a slave, and not including it in the decision-making process, because the body has its own wisdom and guidance that it can offer in all sorts of things, from what we eat, the amount of and type of exercise we have, the amount of sunlight it needs, all of that sort of thing. The body, there is a place on the planet where your body is going to be happiest at any given moment in your life. And we can surrender to that and find ourselves moved by life into those locations where we most need to be. It's quite fascinating as we drop deeper. And the body is of the earth. Every atom and molecule of it has come from the earth and will return to the earth. It needs the energy of the earth to be happy and healthy. And again, a lot of us are or have been quite disconnected from that field of abundance, because that's what the earth's energy is. And as we reconnect with that at the level of the core of the earth, now, then we find that we get charged very, very quickly. And just as there are huge encodements of energy coming in every day from the light of the sun, the same is true from the core of the earth. She is radiating new information daily that is useful for our body to access. So all of this stuff is very, very helpful for the body.
Yesterday, I heard, Dolores stuck around with me in my head yesterday as I was moving through my day, and she's just so funny. She's doing lots of quips. She's doing lots of quips, and one of the things she said was, Do you wonder why batteries get drained around you so often? It's because you don't recharge yours enough, which is just so completely Dolores. And so apropos, I wrote down a couple of things as you were talking. One was the phrase, this idea of the collective, this instant results psyche that we have, humans right now. We want things now, impatience, whatever. This idea of this adjustment, it being long term, is just the idea of it is exhausting to think about that if you're constantly wanting some immediate results. But I wonder if you could talk about this, because this is where I ponder this a lot. I ponder humans being, we speak a lot about what you need to do for yourself, and you can only take care of yourself, and you can only make these decisions yourself, and all these things that we do here. But we're kind of like a flock of birds, we are this species. And as you were talking about going into your body and finding the point of origin so that you can dismantle it and help that, when you were feeling the collective or the human species angst or anger or pain or subjugation or whatever it may be, what's your approach then? Is it still going into your own body, or how would you talk about that?
That's interesting. I've never been asked that question before, and it is interesting. See, so when I'm working with somebody else, say, and I'm focusing on their body and on their energy field, and I get taken through different layers of something, and all of a sudden I recognize, oh, we're no longer in the personal field, we're in the collective field, and this is a collective pattern. And of course, we are all part of the collective. We can't change that. But there is something of a separation happening in terms of frequency. Collective patterns, collective belief systems, collective agreements, if you like, all have an impact, and it's useful to become aware of what you have bought into. Nations hold their own population bound by the rules and the ideologies of that particular nation. So in the US, for instance, you're bound by your flag. You're encouraged to wrap yourself in the American flag in a way that is quite extraordinary, really. It's a real brainwashing that happens there. In this country, it's the royal family that people lock onto as the symbol of national identity. And again, it's a ridiculous, quite sickening symbol when you recognize what that actually means, that one family is meant to be better than everybody else. I mean, it's total nonsense when you start to explore it. But we get manipulated by these control mechanisms. And each country, you can travel from one country to the next and recognize the shift in energy that happens at the border as one population holds one set of ideologies, one national identity structure, and then you cross a border, which is a few meters in distance, but there's a different field of energy in the next country. And I really noticed that crossing between France and Germany. You could really feel the difference in the national psyche. That's a man-made construct that we adhere to. I'm sort of losing track of the question here.
That's okay. It was, how do you find that, dismantle it when it's not yours, it's the collective's, or is it the same process?
It's the same process. So as soon as you recognize something, you can dismantle it. But we have to become conscious of something first. So that thing of recognizing a different mindset in France to Germany, it's like that was a real light bulb moment for me, and thinking, oh, shit, we're just being manipulated by our own idea of nationhood, and none of that is real. So as soon as you recognize a deep pattern in yourself, you can feel, and some of these are anchored into the earth and then rise up into the body. They're agreements, collective agreements we all share. Big one at the moment then is the disease process. We've all bought into disease as a particular type of process. Now, what I'm being told is that disease is frequency based. And if you choose to be in a particular set of frequencies, then you're going to be prone to the diseases inherent in those frequencies. As you elevate your frequency, as you rise out of, in this case, third and fourth dimension, you're no longer anywhere as near as prone to those diseases because they're operating at these lower levels of frequency. So these are collective belief systems. Everybody, for the most part, is believing the same thing. And so you become open and vulnerable to those diseases, to those thought patterns that are operating there. They know now that obesity is a transference pattern in the sense that you can catch obesity, not as a virus, but as an energy structure, because it becomes normalized. And so that becomes the normal frequency of a collective of people. We're influenced by what is normal. We grow up in families, we normalize all sorts of behaviors in a particular family, even to the extent of, drastically abusive behaviors. That becomes normal. We go on to replicate that because in our system, that's what normal is. We go to seek that out when we're forming our own relationships later on, until, again, we've done the work of dismantling those structures in ourselves. So we have to be, again, vigilant and really careful about what we're choosing to normalize within ourselves and the society we're in, what we're choosing to participate in terms of the wider beliefs and constructs that are being fed out to us all of the time, because there is, I think, a huge manipulation going on in terms of consciousness on the planet. And we have totally the capacity to really take charge of what happens within our own energy field. But being conscious is the vital key of that. If we're not conscious, and many people on the planet aren't particularly conscious at all, then you end up literally being herded like a farm animal in a sense, and that's extraordinary to watch on the planet. So the key to your question here is you have to become aware of the processes you're anchored into or that are anchored into you. As soon as you do become aware of it and conscious of it, you can start to dismantle it. As you dismantle it in yourself, you weaken it in the collective. And there was always this lovely example that keeps coming back to my mind. Back in the 1950s, nobody had run a 4-minute mile. And it was believed to be impossible for the human being to run that fast. In 1952, a man called Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. Within a year, that had been broken many, many times, I think. So each time we change our reality, each time we set ourselves free, we create and strengthen that template on the planet and help literally to set others free, or make it a little bit easier for anybody else to find the freedom they seek, simply because one more person has broken that field of energy, the structure of that field, and demonstrates energetically to the collective, yeah, this can be done. The processing, we used to have to, it used to be much more difficult to process your shit, to deal with your stuff. Now, because so many millions of people have been doing this, the processing happens so quickly. That in part is because it's demonstrated in the field that this can be done, and so it doesn't take the same time. There's also a lot about the frequency of the energies coming to us are higher too, and help in that regard as well.
Yeah, I want you to talk about that, but I love what you said about the 4-minute mile, because I think one of the fellas who came right after Bannister a long time ago, I actually went to my high school here in Kansas. His name was Jim Ryan, and he's like this famous person here. in mid-America. Yeah, so the energies that are coming in, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about next. We talk a lot about the sun, and I just love it that you have those gorgeous yellow daffodils your left shoulder as I went, and lit by the sparkling lights from above. I mean, to me, it's just so symbolic of, the higher thing that actually, the bigger energies, and then they come into, I've always seen it this way, come into our local sun, and then our sun does this kind of transducing or modulating or frequency changing of it, and then from there actual sun rays are on our body helping to transmit some of this information. And of course that sort of makes some sense that they have wanted us to stay inside,
Yeah.
and cover ourselves and stay away and from any outdoor gatherings or gatherings at all. But how important is the sun? And talk to me about those beautiful solar angels.
Yeah, the sun is, I mean, our solar system revolves around that body of light, the sun. It is the giver of life in our world, in effect. And so it's vital. And, on this planet, we used to worship the sun and worship the earth. And of course, as we've evolved, we've moved away from that. We've been encouraged and, to disconnect from the sun and disconnect from the earth. And these are the two primary sources of energy in our reality. It's extraordinary. Now we're recognizing the importance of that and coming back to that. Solstices and equinoxes are points on the planet. We've just had the March equinox, which was on last Saturday on the 20th. These are very much about the Earth's relationship with the sun. And our ancestors always would acknowledge and mark those days as being highly significant. There's a strong charge received from the sun on those days, a particularly strong charge that resets the planet for the coming 3 months until, well, the next one for us will be the June solstice. I always run a teleconference on those points, and this equinox, I was running a teleconference, and at the time of the equinox, there's a precise moment of it. It was 9:37 a.m. in the morning UK time. We drop into silence on the teleconference. Now I was watching, and from the sun at that time, there emerged these huge fields of, they called themselves solar angels, and they were vast beings just emerging from the sun. And I watched as they stepped their energy down and down and down, and they dropped their energy down into a frequency that was manageable by us, that we could assimilate. But as they did so, and it looked to me as if they were literally traveling down the sunbeams, they became something else. They were no longer solar angels. They became warriors of light. And the encouragement was for us to take in these frequencies and be warriors of light, become the warriors of light that we are. And it was stressed that this does not mean fighting. We're not needing to fight, but we do need to stand in these frequencies, which are the frequencies of love and truth. And as we embody and radiate those frequencies on this planet, more and more people are doing that now. It creates a field of love and truth that becomes so strong that the distortion and the dishonesty we are currently immersed in, that is coming up to the surface, it's like thick, sticky tar almost as an energy. It's so dense and heavy. As more and more of us embody these frequencies of love and truth, that stuff starts to dismantle. And what I was shown, there was a big wave of energy on February the 22nd that came in, and I was warned about that a while before. in that week, I was shown that the next wave would be on the equinox, and then there's another one coming in April, another one in May, huge one on the June solstice. That each of these waves, and these are cosmic waves, they're not coming through our sun. These are like huge tidal waves that are just moving across the universe, I think. So as they come, they transform, transmute, wash through our reality. They wash deep through our cell tissue. They bring stuff up to the surface that needs clearing. Ancient, deep, deep patterns. We're all prone to this. Now, you can't escape this if you're on this planet at this point in time. What I was shown is that these fields of light are going to be touching everybody. And so people in organizations that are dealing with, say, governments or corporations that don't have our highest interest at heart, then there are going to be a lot more people touched by these energies, are going to be coming forward as whistleblowers, as truth tellers, to reveal in a way that hasn't happened up until now what is happening at the level of control and dark Machiavellian dealings on this planet. And there's a lot of that stuff going on. So I think as we move through the next few months, there are going to be a lot of revelations coming that are going to really surprise a lot of people, really upset a lot of people, particularly if you've had your blinkers on and none of this stuff has registered. It's going to be like having your whole world blown wide open. For those of us that are perhaps been investigating for some years, then it will just be a relief to have the information out in the general population. Again, I was shown that's nothing for me to focus on. And this has been the mantra that guidance has given me for years now. That's not your field. Your field of work is to anchor the energies of the new earth. And I've been told that for some years. I spent a lot of time investigating the other stuff, all of the conspiracy. So I know about it, but I don't need to give a lot of time to it. And that's a whole different set of frequencies. For some people, that is their life's work, to explore and to bring that stuff into awareness. But for many of us now, it is simply about embodying these solar frequencies to create a really strong field of love and truth on this planet that becomes an unstoppable, unshakable force in itself.
I love so much when you talk about the sun and the lion-headed beings, and the Lion's Gate. I feel like the Lion's Gate is like I don't know, this cosmic party gathering thing that means you and me and the entire something. I don't know. It feels very much like I feel very personally connected to all of that. You had privately told me a little bit about the solar angels, and before I ever even got into this work, before I ever discovered Dolores, I think before I ever even knew what Reiki was or anything, I had found some recordings where I was trying to, the whole idea of self-healing was just being introduced to me. And there's this woman, I believe she's still alive, but she's quite elderly by now. And I don't believe she produces much work anymore, but her name's Launa Huffings. And she has a great connection with angels. And I should try to contact her. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it.
I know her name. I think I might even have read one of her books like 20 years ago or something. Huh?
So amazing. She just had this wonderful way of interfacing this cosmic, incredible energy in a way of its time, meaning just enough for people who are just opening their eyes could access it. And she talked a lot about the solar angels. And during this time when I was in so much physical pain and I had nobody to talk to really about this, my world was a pain clinic or this doctor or that specialist or whatever. And I was getting to the point where that doesn't work, that backfires. You people aren't listening to me. You know, I'm all of this is going on with me. And my solace was listening to her talk about these solar angels, and they became very, very real to me. And when you were talking about them coming through on this equinox, it was, I felt enveloped by this, you know, this very familiar, giant, warm energy and hug. And then very shortly after that, I happened to be in the shower washing my hair, and one of those lion-headed beings seemed to be standing like right outside the shower, and he was doing this thing. And as I was breathing deeply, as I tend to do in the shower, taking in the energy and letting it wash through me with the help of the water, it was like he was doing it with me. He would put his head up to the sun and he would breathe with me. He would match breathing with me, and he'd breathe it in, and then he'd turn his head and he'd help blow it down as it went down through me like this. And it was extraordinary. And it just came from, you know, this small sentence that you had told me about what happened in your energy healing session on the equinox. Your job anchoring the energies of the new earth. You know, we are pre-recording this at the tail end of March, and this will be broadcast in the middle part of April. I wonder if you couldn't give us a little bit of a sense and energy work for the collective right now, if you couldn't provide a little bit of that, and maybe even connect with those gorgeous solar angels if they wanted to come in.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to, because it's the energy on all the teleconferences, we record those, and the energy is held in the recording. So it'll be lovely for anybody that wants to tune in with what I'll just lead a short little meditative practice, in a sense, that what I do is always energy work. So it's not simple meditation. It's about moving energy and transforming our state, elevating our state. So join in if you feel moved. And if you don't, you could always sort of stand on the sidelines and watch, and you can energetically do that. And you can always state to your energy field just a clear no that you don't want to be a part of this, and you won't. Recognize that's your sovereignty and that's your choice, always with any of these sorts of things. So I always like to encourage people to sit up relatively straight, to have the spine reasonably upright so that the energy can focus. And there's a huge amount of work happening in our spine at the moment. The spine and the nervous system seeming, every time I'm working with an individual, the nervous system is unfolding and unfolding, expanding itself through the energy field in a way that reveals to me that our sensitivity is expanding. We're giving birth to more and more of ourselves. So we're going to take a look at that and see maybe the solar angels, but I usually like to just see who wants, or if anybody. The sun is always very present, so we will certainly connect with the sun. So start by just closing your eyes and allow all of the huge amount of energy we pour out into the world through our eyes, just allow that to turn backwards inside your head. Imagine you're looking through the back of your eyes into your inner world. And allow your awareness to connect with your breath. So you unite breath and focus, and you can use the breath to open up the spaces in your body. This is a great one for relieving tension or releasing pain, any tight process in your body, and just wash the breath through the body, recognizing the breath is completely capable of penetrating all of the physical structures of the body, from the densest bones to the lightest cell tissue and membranes. And settle more deeply into the body. Just relax into the body, encouraging the body to open and receive you. Surrendering to being physical, surrendering to your choice to incarnate, And just relaxing into the body. Feel the strength of the spine supporting everything you do in your life. And just connect into your spine. Breathe your way through the spine, right the way from the neck, opening up spaces between the vertebrae, connecting with the spinal cord, protected by the bony structures of the spine, running through the center there, connecting with all of the nerves that play out through the spinal cord, flowing out into all of the organs, the muscles, all of the systems of the body, just allowing everything to unfold, using the breath to relax, to release, and just coming in and dropping deeper into the body. And as you start to relax more deeply, you become aware of places you're holding tension. You can just offer the breath softly to them. No push, no force, just a quiet internal offering, extending the breath to those places. And really surrender to the pelvis. Allow the pelvis to hold you, to open, to receive you. Relax into it, dropping into the body more and more deeply. And then allow your attention to turn towards the sun. Now there's a point just above our head, the soul star, if you like. Now this point takes the energies, the cosmic energies, and transduces them, transforms them into a workable set of frequencies for us. So start there, just holding awareness at the soul star, 8 to 10 inches above the head. Just hold there. There's a lot of transformation happening at that point. Now, as we are opening to more and more cosmic frequencies, more and more of our cosmic self, and these frequencies that are incoming will activate portions of our DNA that scientists have told us are junk, but are just dormant. So we invite then a clearing and an activation of the soul star. And you might sense a lot of movement in that area, that there are literally non-physical support teams helping to clear and activate that aspect of your energetic anatomy, opening to receive more. And then literally, those non-physical beings, which in effect are aspects of you, your multidimensional self, reaching to the sun and drawing ribbons of sunlight, sunbeams of the precise frequency that you most need at this point in time, and weaving them through the soul star so those frequencies flow down into your body, into your field. So give yourself wholehearted permission to receive from the sun. dispelling any fear, any anxiety, any patterns of disconnecting from the frequencies of the sun that have been installed, trusting deeply your relationship with the sun, that it has a place in your body where it longs to radiate. And of course, this is the solar plexus, the place where the golden rays of the sun are meant to radiate as pure divine power. So just check in your system if the energy of the sun wants to come down into your solar plexus, traveling down through the crown, through the throat, through the heart, activating and illuminating as it goes, traveling down into the solar plexus, clearing all of our issues with power, personal power, power over, enslavement, washing all of that away, offering it up, and allowing the power of the sun, radiance, to land in your body, illuminating you from within. And just take some moments with that, because most of us have a lot of issues around power, and the solar plexus is that place where we deal with that in our body. So allowing those issues to be washed through, to be cleared, it may be useful to do this several times, just so that the illumination of the sun in your solar plexus can continue to strengthen and brighten. Radiate that right through your cell tissue, right through every system of your body, every organ, every bone, every muscle, right through the energy field. Allowing that golden radiance to spill out through the body, out all around you. No shortage of this energy. It's coming from the sun, a constant, abundant supply. Feel that shifting the balance of your heart, cleansing and clearing the throat, washing through the centers in the brain and the crown, and traveling right the way down through the spine, through the nervous system, deep into the pelvis. Deep through the base. Recognize you are a solar being, not separate from the sun. It exists inside you. It exists as you. You are a solar being. Illumined from within. Allow that to be true for you. Okay. So there, we're done.
Well, that was pretty spectacular.
What's lovely is that the sun really wants us to know it from the inside out. It doesn't want to be some distant body out there millions of miles away. It wants us to have this intimate personal relationship with it. And so it's very willing to be there for us in this sort of way. It's lovely, lovely. Thank you for that opportunity. It's beautiful.
Oh my goodness, thank you for that gift. How powerful and extraordinary. I had, as I do with some of my more powerful healings or meditations, the flashing going on above my head for quite a bit of that. And then when you had the sun travel down our spine, it's interesting. It's chilly today, and I don't really have the heat on because I don't want the fan to blow. And you brought that sun down in, and I'm warm. That really warmed me up, and that was just so lovely and expansive. And I feel amazing. There's part of me that as we were coming out of it, thinking about all those people who really are out there dependent on things like alcohol or drugs or pain medication. And if they just had a taste of this kind of experience to realize maybe, you can create some of that well-being and euphoria just right in here without needing anything outside of you. And what a gift that is, and what a gift to the world you are, David. I can't wait to see what you come up with in the next little while, especially that June event that you talked about. But tell everyone how they can get a hold of you, how they can make themselves,
Yeah, my website is www.davidmanningenergywork.com. You can go there. If you open up that website, then there'll be a little pop-up within a few seconds that invites you to sign up for my newsletters. You can do that. And when this interview is, I'll put underneath the links for the website and whatever, so you can find those somewhere underneath this in the comments or whatever. And yeah, it would be great to have you on my newsletter list. And then I send out quite a lot of newsletters actually, just because there's a constant stream of information, and I'm doing teleconferences usually 3 or 4 times a month. All of them are significant pieces of energy work, working with the energies as they currently are coming through. And of course, I don't see the whole picture at all. I see a small piece of what's going on that I am meant to be working with. But sorry, I've got a lot of noise outside there. I hope it's not too disturbing. Yeah, we work with these energies on a weekly basis, and we've created a really strong field of transformation as a collective of a couple of hundred people that gather on a sort of more or less weekly basis. So it would be lovely to have. If you liked what happened there, then we go much deeper in the hour-long teleconferences. And there's a lot of free stuff on my website too, and there's a YouTube channel, David Manning, a lot of free stuff on there too. So it would be lovely to have you sign up to access some of those. So.
All right. Well, listen, you're not going to get out of this interview without reaching down to the floor and bringing
He's still fast asleep. He's been asleep the whole time. He just wandered over as we started and fell asleep all night. Let me just give me a second. Oh, beautiful. Hello, lovely boy. Come here. He's a very sleepy little puppy. This is Rafi, which means it's an Arabic boy's name, meaning held up high, I think. So I'm going to hold Rafi up high to say hello to everybody.
Goodness, isn't he adorable? Rafi, did you like that energy transmission?
And he does, when I'm doing energy work, he just wanders over and sits underneath my feet and falls asleep. So I think he's getting used to holding the energy. That's what everybody says about their animals and their pets. So I think he's in training. He is very, very beautiful, though. He really is. Sleeps through the night from the word go, which is a blessing, I tell you. yeah, I didn't want a dog at all. I was quite clear I didn't want a dog, and then all of a sudden I did. And because of lockdown, we can't go anywhere to find an animal, so it was all online. And I was told, the perfect puppy was dropped into my heart, and this is him. And he
You're
does seem
holding
to
him
be.
right there on your heart as it is. He's absolutely adorable.
He is. He totally is. So
Hi, buddy. Hi, Raffy. I've got a puppy at home too. All right. Well, yeah, a lot of people got dogs this last year or so, haven't they? And you know what? Good for the dogs, good for us. I think sometimes dogs can modify what's going on in our own world, and it can help us have a more compassionate sometimes perspective and the support from a dog.
yeah, but it's what is also dogs will process the unprocessed energy of a family or of a human being, and that's an act of service they do for us. But dogs will often develop illnesses that really are the human being's illnesses, and the dog is processing it. That's what happens when we project our energy, when we don't own our own shit, when we push it out into our field. So animals or young children in the house will process it for us. So if you have a dog that's ill or a cat, ask yourself, is this my illness he's processing? And do your work and ask the animal to give it back to you so that you can deal with it in a way that they don't have to. Um, yeah, but they do that as a major act of service for us. They will reflect back to us what we're perhaps not seeing. So yeah.
I had a client years ago whose
I'm going to put him down so he can go
major
back to sleep on the floor.
illness was she had an ulcer, and I learned long ago, I knew that she had some animals. And I asked her about her animals. She had several dogs and some llamas, I think at least a couple. And all I had to do was ask her about her animals, and she kind of sat back. I mean, I was already going there anyway, and she picked up on it. She goes, and they all have some digestive problems too, and actually even ulcers too. And sometimes I wonder if it's the water, and and I'm thinking it's not the water. She actually, we're on the same water system, believe it or not. So it was like,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, look, he's just curled up on my
yeah.
feet again. So,
Well, take advantage of it while you can. Let sleeping dogs and babies lie.
yeah.
David, thank you again. This has been more than brilliant and quite generous of your time.
Hey, it's lovely, always lovely to connect with you. Sending you much love and all of your listeners and viewers. It's lovely to connect with you too. So, thank you very much. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening.
Of course. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and stay tuned for the next episode of Quantum Realms 2021. Bye for now.